Welcome to the Silicon Board. Now in this video I shall start with AWS IAM. Now I will create a new playlist that will have all the AWS related videos. Now in our AWS journey we shall start with AWS IAM because from AWS IAM only you can control all the AWS services. So let's begin. I have created a diagram in Draw.io that will explain you what is roles, what is AWS roles, what is AWS policies, users, and how they interact with each other. Now you can see we have AWS users over here. We have AWS Lambda, that is a service, and these are the roles, and below that we have permissions. Now what this diagram is explaining us, that is a user can have read and write permission through roles, and what it will do, it can write something inside AWS S3. Let's say you want to directly upload a bucket. Let's say you want to directly upload a file inside S3. You can do it. So that is a scenario where a user who is having read and write access of AWS S3, that's come into the picture. Now let's say Lambda is a Python function, or you can say let's say Lambda is a Python code and it is trying to write a file inside S3. So you can observe that same read and write operation inside S3, but there are two different sources. First source is the user, second source is the Lambda. So a role that can be assigned to a user, a role that can be assigned to a AWS service as well. Now what are the stuff that is inside a role? That is the read and write operation itself. That a role, inside role we shall mention the fundamental read and write operation, those codes, those JSON file itself that will have instructions that will say to AWS that okay, this service or this user can write inside AWS S3 if assigned. Now let's say there is a Lambda function. If it doesn't have this role assigned and inside those roles we don't have the permissions, then it cannot access read and write operation. So this is the bare minimum concept that we need to know before moving into AWS IAM. Now let's move to AWS IAM page, and there I will explain from AWS console itself how it looks like. Now when you have logged in into your AWS account, you can get IAM if you write that, or if you type IAM in the top left search box, you can write IAM and you will get the IAM icon, and you can click over here. So once you get there, you will have this AWS IAM page. Now in this page it will show you some of the important messages, or you can say the important informations, like how many user groups are there, how many users are there, how many roles are there, how many policies are there. I will explain you all those terms one by one. In this video I shall just touch this features at a very high level, and in the next videos I shall teach you all those terms, or I will explain you all those terms in a bit detailed fashion. So what are users? Users, you can think of a Linux users. Like whenever you create an AWS account, you will have a root user. Now under a specific root user you can create multiple users, and that root user has all the privileges. It can delete any user, it can create any user. So these are the users. Now if you click over here, you will see there is one user under my root account, that is dev Pallab. Now root user is the main user, like in my case it is Pallab AWS, and under Pallab AWS we have dev Pallab. And so dev Pallab has very less power, or you can say it is very less privileged, and it doesn't have access to all the AWS services, and it cannot do all the operations. Now most of the companies, when you will work, you will get similar kind of a user where you will be assigned to do a very much restricted specific task under an AWS account. You will not get the access of AWS root account. So that is AWS users. Now what are roles? Now before coming to roles, I will go to policies. Now what are policies? Policies are the fundamental permissions that is given to do a certain task. for an example, from if I draw an analogy from Linux machines, like is the means do we have a permission to write or read on a specific file? So that is a fundamental permission. Now that those are policies. So there can be multiple policies. You can create policies, and when you click on the policy page, you will see the these are the list of policies. These are inbuilt. Now you can create policies as well, but I will skip that part for now because it will take a complete separate video. So just remember, policies are the fundamental permissions. Okay. Now these are policies. Now comes to what are roles. Now when you create a role have can have one or more than one policies. So you can think a role is a kind of a what can I say? You can think role as a set of permissions given to a specific individual. Okay, now role can be interchangeable. Now, why I am saying a role can be interchangeable? For an example, in the world of AWS, a specific role can be assigned to an AWS user. A specific role can be assigned to an AWS service. Okay, like let's say in Linux, you are having permissions to write inside a file. So you are an user. That specific user has a permission to write in a file. Now there can be a Python program that is trying to write one file. So here Python program, or you can say the Python process that is already in the execution mode that is trying to write a file. Now these two scenarios are different. In the first case, a human being, a user, is trying to write something inside a file. In the second case, a Python code is trying, or you can say a Python process is trying to write something inside a file. So the two cases are different. So Python code, or you can say the Python process, is a service that is trying to write, and in the other case, a human being is trying to write. So these are the role. Now, what is that role? The role is trying to write something to a specific file. So that role can be assigned to anyone. That role can be assigned to an user. That role can be assigned to a service. Now, what is inside a role? Inside a role, that is a policy. So first comes AWS policy, then comes AWS role. You will assign a role to a user. You can also directly assign policies to a user also, but that is not a good way. So first you create a policy, you attach a policy to a role. Now attach that role to a user. Now one role can have multiple policies.